Welcome back. This is the Heroes Podcast, and this is a special episode with Lorenzo Payman because we're going to talk about going abroad, traveling abroad, living abroad, working abroad, and I'm very inspired because this will be massive learning for a lot of you listening to us. So, welcome. How are you?
Andre, brother, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure, a delight talking to you. I'm doing wonderful. I'm back in this one of my favorite cities in Asia, if not the world, Kuala Lumpur, and it's life is good here. I'm doing wonderful. How about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm back from Italy 3 days ago, which was a wonderful trip, 2 weeks with my wife. But I was thinking, well, would we share where we had been in the last 3 months? And by the way, when you mentioned Kuala Lumpur, I realized I'm heading off to India in 5 days, and Kuala Lumpur is where I connect another flight on my way to Australia in 3 weeks' time. So I'm very excited. So tell us, where have you been in the last,
Wait,
let's say,
time out. When are you coming to Kuala Lumpur again?
I'm actually have a connecting flight.
Oh, connecting.
That's all. So I didn't plan to
Ah,
stop. Forgot that I should. So where have you been in the last 3 months?
well, mostly I'm based now in Danang, Vietnam, but I
Hmm.
come every 2 months to Kuala Lumpur because I love Kuala Lumpur. I spent 6 months of the year last year in Kuala Lumpur. I'm gonna be here until Thursday. Today is Tuesday night, Tuesday after late afternoon here. So another 2 days before flying back to Vietnam to Da Nang. So and when I heard you said you're going to Kuala Lumpur, I said, wait a second. I want to meet you. You know, it would be a wonderful opportunity, but they're just connecting. So maybe next time. That's okay. On the way back, maybe when you come back from Australia back to Europe, let me know. It would be an honor and a pleasure to finally connecting in person.
Yes, I mean, that sounds amazing. So do you want to just start with how do you just do these getaways? Do you have someone giving you accommodation? Are you booking Airbnb? How does this work?
Yes. So I mostly use Airbnb. And so what I do, I want to go to a new place, I book a place for a few nights or a week at most to get a feel. I'm a slow traveler. I'm not the type of guy that does 10 countries in 5 days. That's not me, because that's not traveling to me. I rather spend 2, 3 months in a country. So when I go there, maybe the first thing I do is book a place for 3 to 5 days just to get a feel for the area, for the place, to see if it's quiet enough because I have very light sleep, and also to ensure that the quality of the internet is reliable because I work online. That's non-negotiable for me. I need the fastest internet possible. So I book first for a few days to see how it is. And if I like it, then I'm very happy to extend that usually off Airbnb directly with the owner to save some time, some money. Now after having been in KL for so long, I get to know quite a few owners, especially in this building. By booking directly with the owner, I saved. If I had booked the same unit now on Airbnb, I would have paid $100 more for 10 days just because of the fees and the taxes. $100 might not sound a lot, but still, I'm all about saving money. And in KL, $100 goes a long way. That's a very nice night out with friends or nice dinner or nice something like that. So you can always save money by going directly with the owner. But again, you really need to take the time to know the owners because I've also had some not so good experiences with when I was dealing with the owner on Airbnb. It was nice, but as soon as I got off the internet, the guy completely disappeared, not responding to my messages, not doing any holding his end of the bargain, which was to send me, say, once or twice a week housekeeping, or was any issue with the flat. It would take forever to respond. We can do an entire episode on that, but yeah. So do your real story. One of my friend people that I know, a woman that's also one of my alumni of my academy. She moved. We talked about moving she's from Australia, from Perth. We had a conversation in early January saying that her lease is over at the end of February, and she doesn't think she's want to stay in Perth anymore. She's looking at a new location. I told her about KL, and long story short, she messaged me a few days later. Hey, I've just booked my ticket. That was beautiful. But then the next thing I heard about her that was not so beautiful, she booked sight unseen 4 months in advance at a place on Airbnb. I said, why would you do that? Why would you book a place She literally paid 4 months in advance in the middle of nowhere. She could have just asked me or other friend that I know in KL, but she did that. And then once we all told her not to do that, she went back to the owner to try to cancel. She said she could cancel, but not the first month. And Airbnb would not refund some of the fees. So the real story, she ended up losing, are you ready? 2,500 Australian dollars in fees to Airbnb for
Oh,
canceling something that she had booked for 4 months, even though the owner was willing to refund her, but Airbnb's fees amounted to 2,500 Australian dollars, which is close to what, 2,000 US dollars that she lost just like that. So these are some
and
horror stories. So be careful, guys. Do research. What I would recommend is never ever book a place for a long-term sight unseen, especially if you've never been in the place.
I
That's just
love
common
that.
sense. Yeah.
And we did get into trouble once in Australia. I remember we probably booked 5 days somewhere in Brisbane, and I think day one we found out there has been fleas, and we got bitten, and there was a Chinese owner. They didn't care about it much, and then well, it was an interesting arrangement. We wanted to cancel. They said, well, you cannot cancel now, and we ended up, I think, taking some of the money back, and then he canceled the booking on the condition that we cannot make a bad review. I said, well, I don't care. I will just do whatever you want, but we just don't want to get more bites. So, so yes, use your common sense. And I found recently, or in the last, say, 5, 10 years, is booking.com is not a bad one
Mhm.
either.
Yes.
To look at places, to get a feel. It's fairly cheap. Normally there is free cancellation up to sort of 24 hours before. Yeah, look around and see what you find.
And
Is there
for people traveling in Asia, on top of booking.com, there's another big, but also powerful platform called Agoda. Agoda.com is also very big for Asia.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's Chinese owned and they have flights as well.
Mhm.
Although although with Agoda I had a very silly experience. I when we were traveling in Beijing or in China, I booked this wonderful promotion. What happened was I thought really strange. She says book sort of check in at 9, check out at 11. Well, said how interesting.
Checking at
And
night. Wow.
and you know what it was? Oh, this was a hotel where, these, how would I call these romantic couples showed up for an
Ah,
occasion,
like sex motel, basically. Okay, I see.
basically booking in with my family. And they say, well,
Ah,
is it okay that we need to check out in 2 hours time? I said, what are you talking about? And it wasn't that cheap. She says, well, you booked from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and that's when you should go unless you want to pay,
extra.
$1,000 more. I said, well, you know what? Well, we're not interested in a 2-hour room. We have 2 kids here and a wife, so we'll look for something else. And wow, that was a big mess trying to cancel it in China, where all of my social media channels, my phone was blocked by the Chinese
Mhm.
wall.
Yeah. Whenever you go to China, you need to have a VPN, but now the government is becoming very savvy, so VPNs don't work. But I'm sure there's that one that work. I used to live for 4 years in China, so knowing which VPNs to use was a matter of survival in China for us foreigners, because to access your Gmail, YouTube, Google, Facebook, especially for business or keeping in touch with family, you do need a VPN.
And to the point, like it got to the stage where I was not notified by a change of flight because I was blocked. And I had a family showing up at Beijing airport, and then we found out, well, the flight was canceled. The four of us, imagine, with 2 kids. And then they said, oh, we sent you a notification. I said, you basically blocking me from most of my communication with Australia, with my emails, with anything else. So obviously I was not aware. And then they said, well, we'll try and do something. And we ended up going, I think, on another flight 9 hours later. But it was quite a panic. It was quite a panic because lines of communication are broken, and then you end up not being able to talk to anyone. And of course, I was calling Australia, the travel agent, all of that things. But do you want to take us back to maybe more so staying longer abroad, or what your experiences had been about living in different countries, if you have a few specific examples, and how was it to fit in, to really feel safe, to feel like you are a, let's say, a welcome member of society? Where do you want to start?
Sure. So I've lived in quite a few countries, 14 countries on 4 continents. When I was younger, I lived in Brazil and South America. When I was younger, safety was not a concern for me because when you're in your 20s, you don't care about, you have nothing to lose. This is why I went to Brazil, even despite the numerous warning from friends, family, and other people. But thankfully, nothing happened to me by just using common sense, you know. But nowadays, as I get, more advanced, older, the first thing I look whenever I consider another place to my next destination is safety, because I don't want to take the risk of having my cell phone stolen or my laptop or anything like that. So for me, safety is important. This is why 2 years ago, when I left Canada in November 2022, I was really thinking of going to either Argentina or Brazil and be there during the World Cup. But then I said, when I weighed the pros and cons, said, is it really worth it for me to be in that environment? I said no. Even though I love South America, I speak the language, I speak Portuguese and Spanish, but the safety was the deciding factor. This is why I decided to come back to Asia. That's what I love about Asia, the safety. Things we take for granted. Unfortunately, even now in major cities around North America, at least Canada and the US, and probably in some of the Western Europe, unfortunately, you can't walk on the street with a cell phone in your hand, for example. You have to be careful. Whereas in Asia, that's not a concern, and I like to I like to go from walk. I love walking, especially in KL, with my laptop in my bag, going to a coffee shop or going to a nice lounge. I can't do that, and I wouldn't dare doing that in Canada. I wouldn't, especially not in Brazil or Argentina, absolutely not. So for me, this first thing I look at is safety. Safety, safety, safety. That's the first thing. The second thing I look at is the climate. I don't want to. If I leave Canada, it's not to go to another cold country. So that's a given. For me, I'm a tropical boy. I like the sun. If there's a tropical beach, even better. That's icing on the cake. If not, no problem. As long as I have a nice swimming pool and a gym, I'm a happy camper. So I look at that, and of course the speed and reliability of internet, because when you have an online business, having a reliable internet connection is a non-negotiable. That's something that's the first thing I ask whenever I send any request or any, before booking any Airbnb or even on booking or whatever. I ask, how is the internet speed? What's the internet speed? So there's a few factors I take into consideration also. Is it loud? Because I am a very light sleeper. The slightest noise wakes me up, and even especially in the morning, because most of my calls being in Asia are quite early, 6 p.m. Eastern, that's 6 a.m. here. So when I wake up in the morning, I don't want to be awakened by loud constructions or loud neighbors. In some places like Vietnam, especially, I make sure that, again, this is not racist, this is really a fact. I would not stay in a building where my neighbors are Vietnamese, because they tend to play their TV or have literally loud karaoke until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. They leave their doors open, the kids roaming around and all that. Again, that's their culture. But and this is why now in Vietnam, I'm in an area in Danang called Koreatown. It's full of Koreans. I love these guys. They go party late at night, so I can sleep very well. They come at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. They sleep until 10, 11. I'm perfect. I don't get distracted by loud noise at night or early morning. So God bless you, Koreans. Wherever I go, I make sure to be in a place where Koreans go usually, I'm joking. That's a little joke, but these are little details that, can really make or break your enjoyment of your stay, especially if you have to sleep early, or if you're like me, you're a light sleeper, or you have to wake up early in the morning. You don't want in a place where the neighbor is blaring the TV or karaoke or loud kids screaming and playing from 6 o'clock in the morning. So these are things that, I look at whenever I'm going to a new destination. Did I answer your question? I went on a long tangent.
You did, you did.
Good, good, good.
I was thinking back to my adventures in Indonesia
Oh,
and
yeah.
Malaysia, and I recall now those bloody early mornings, 4 or 5 a.m. when the mosque started there, calling for prayer. I'm like, oh, another one that we didn't kind of
So
foresee.
the call to prayer here in Malaysia doesn't really affect me. There's two ways to go around it. Number one, get a place and the highest floor you can get, and make sure you have very good windows.
Yeah,
So I'm on the 23rd floor. It doesn't bother me. I can barely hear it. And for me, honestly, the call of prayer, I find it more soothing than annoying because it's
mm,
beautiful. So,
yeah.
but I'm sure if you're sitting on the first floor of a building and you have a mosque right next door, then I can imagine it to be not such an enjoyable an experience. Yes, absolutely. That was one of my concern as well when I first came to Malaysia. I said, I don't want to be waking at 3 o'clock in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning,
I think I think it was 4:30 a.m. and then 9:30 or 10 p.m. So I'm really admiring the people who are, well, they show up for their prayers and
Oh, yes.
follow the plan
It
of
takes
the prophet.
tremendous discipline, faith, and belief to do it 5 times a day. At the same time, you drop whatever you're doing to pray. It's commendable. It's
and
beautiful.
and I found beautiful people, and with I'm not so religious, but I did find full heart, full welcoming people, and all types of religions. So I think religions have these beautiful
Mhm.
values that are common in all religions. So
Yes.
there are different rituals and different customs that they are following, but the human being is
Mhm.
always, I believe, the underlying asset among uh, among religions. So how, when it comes to staying for a few years, and I understand you had, circumstances and the reasons why you stayed in Brazil, why you stayed in, you said, I think you mentioned Argentina. Uh, what has been your experience? Did you pick up these languages? Did you start learning the languages when you stayed there, or how did it go?
Well, I love languages, especially Latin languages. I learned Italian to almost fluency without taking a single class by just listening to the music and reading the Italian newspaper, especially sports, and listening and talking way back when I was 12, 11, 11, 12, 13 in the early 90s, where I grew up in a small town in the south of France, where the only place to get the Italian newspaper, like Gazzetta dello Sport, which is the biggest sport newspaper. My father had to go to the train station of our town. For example, I would go on the Monday and the Thursday because that's when my team is AC Milan. They would play in the Serie A on Sunday. So the Monday one would be available on Tuesday. The Thursday would be available on Friday. So every Tuesday and every Friday after work, my father would go to the train station, buy me the La Gazzetta, and bring it to me. It was, for those who don't know, it's a very peculiar newspaper. It's all in pink paper. You've seen it, I'm
Yeah,
sure, being especially in Italy. You know, it's this is how I learned Italian to listening to the football narrations on the radio back then in the early 90s. There was no internet. There was no 5,000 channels. You didn't have football on demand. If there was one football game on TV per week, it was a big event. All the boys were looking forward to it, when you're a teenager. And yeah, for me, I learned languages because I was very interested in it, not just because I needed it for school or for work, but because I had a deep interest interest in it myself. And that applies to anything. You want to learn anything, find a personal deep interest in it, not just because you have to do it for work or for business or from school, then you will learn it. For example, Spanish. I took Spanish in France in high school. I could even English. I took English, and I'm when I moved to Canada, I learned two languages, English and Quebecois, which is the French you speak, the best elephant story. For example, English in school or Spanish, I would just do the bare minimum just to pass the class and not learn anything. I didn't give a damn about it. But I only learned it when I got, when we moved to Canada. Of course, we were in an English-speaking environment. I had to learn it just to get by. You have no other alternative. Spanish, for example, in school I had no interest, but then when I got into university, I got into Latin music, Latin dancing, and of course, the beautiful Latin woman also helped as well. That was a big motivation to learn the Spanish. So find what's something that is you deeply interested. For me, Spanish, the motivation was the music, the dancing. I love that. And Italian, I learned it because, hey, football, AC Milan. Portuguese, same thing. Huge football, fan of football, Brazilian football, Brazilian music, and then chatting to friends. This is how I learned those languages without taking a single class of those. So find a passion, what really sets your soul, your heart on fire about learning that language, and you can implement that to anything in life, whether it's cooking, whatever you want to learn, playing the music or guitar. Find a reason bigger than just because you need it for school or because you need it for work or business. And once you do, you will not need a teacher. You will learn it on your own. So that's how I learned those languages. And I learned those languages before going, for example, Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, not continental Portuguese. Brazilian Portuguese, I learned it before going by, listening to Brazilian music, watching Brazilian football, and also back then in the early 2000s, chatting on MSN with pen friends from Brazil. That's how I learned Brazilian. And once I landed Brazil, people couldn't believe it, that, hey, you speak Portuguese, but you never took it in class. How is that possible? It's because, again, I found reasons, I found ways to learn it. Not just because I needed it for school or for work, but because I was deeply passionate and interested in it. This is how I've been able to learn all these languages. And yeah, if you make the effort, the investment of time to learn the language of the country you plan on spending, say, even if it's just for 1 week, even if you learn just a few words, it's going to make your experience so much better, so much more enjoyable. And if you spend more than just a few days, a few weeks, you will have a completely different experience. Because once you're able to communicate the locals in their own language, they will love you, they will respect you even more, they will, you will see a different side of that you would never be able to see if you didn't take the time to actually learn the language. So I recommend anyone, even if you're going just for a week vacation, learn at least 5-10 words. Hello, how are you? What's your name? How's your day? Basic things. And just see, your experience is going to be a completely different one for the positive.
Wonderful, yes. I was just talking to someone in Australia, and first time she heard from me, well, Lonely Planet, the series of these wonderful travel books, which is very concise, just enough to, save yourself from, unsafe spots, and it gives you a small vocabulary, maybe 1 or 2 pages at the end. That just is a wonderful way to keep you safe and have some understandings of how to find accommodation when you're around, how to travel, what types of travel, how much they cost, and even gives you a few itineraries. And she learned that, she could use this when she traveled. Well, she's never heard of it, and she's 54 years old. And she said, well, this is amazing. She wants one of these books and she will pick her next destination. And what would be your approach if you decided to, let's say, work somewhere now, Payman? Like if you chose, and you gave us wonderful preferences, how you pick places and why you pick places, but what would you suggest to someone who is sort of the guy sitting at home, working in their home country? What would be 3 things they could do to make that move, that bold move that most people are just postponing out of, normally it's fear, or fear of rejection, or fear of the unknown? What would be the 3 things to consider, to look at, to maybe research before they decide to sort of work overseas or stay somewhere a few years?
Great question. Before that, I just want to say that I used extensively Lonely Planets in my first few travels back in the early 2000s when there was no YouTube, no Facebook, no social media. So, and I use them, I bought them. I still have the one for Brazil, Thailand, and Japan. Yes, those are amazing. Still, they have a valuable use of it. To answer your question, now there's no excuse to hold it off because you have plenty of guys already doing it. Just go on YouTube. Search, for example, living in whatever city you're interested. For example, I'm interested in, for example, let's say Bratislava. I go living in Bratislava, living in Prague, living in, I don't know, whatever you want, in Bucharest or whatever you want, living in Nairobi, whatever, Buenos Aires. There's tons of video. Listen to other people, get in touch with them. There's forums. There's, I'm sure you may know if you're working online, if you're an entrepreneur, I'm sure you can find someone on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram that's already living there. Get in touch with them, pick their brains. That's the number one. Number two, hey, take a vacation, go try it. Just like when you buy a car, you go first test drive it. Or when you buy a house, you go first to visit the house. Same thing here. Go for a vacation and go, if you're able to, go for a vacation with a flexible schedule. Book, depending where you're going. Let's say you're based in Europe, you want to go, say, to, for example, to an island in Spain. That's pretty close. Go for 2 weeks. But if you say based in America, you want to go to Asia, I would not recommend you coming for a week because the jet lag alone, you're not going to make it. No, it's no joke. It's 24-hour flying for anyone who was not traveled internationally from, say, from North America to Asia. It's a no joke. Me being from Canada, Toronto, just the flight Toronto to Hong Kong is 16 hours non-stop. So 16 hours, imagine sitting on a tiny little chair for 16 hours. And then if you have to do a connection, by the second flight, you want to jump off the plane, seriously. So do not underestimate the traveling time and then jet lag. Let's say you arrive from say from the US to Thailand to Bangkok after 24-hour flying and 12 to 14-hour time difference, your schedule will be screwed up. You will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You will be falling asleep like a rock at 2 p.m. You can't fight it. It's gonna take a few days, if not a week. So if you're coming from North America to Asia, or even from Europe to Asia, the minimum I would recommend is at least 3 weeks, if not 4 weeks. So you can at least have the time to enjoy it. And because also it's one thing for you to travel just for a week and be a tourist, another thing for you to stay for a month to be, I think a month is a sweet spot because it gives you a good taste of seeing what it's like to actually living there, not just being a tourist. So you can really budget your expenses, build a nice little routine for yourself, meet some friends, find out the right places to eat, just build yourself a social community. And even before that, speaking of that, go on those Facebook groups, go on those forums. Let's say you're looking to say go from the US to say Europe, say Barcelona or Budapest, or say in Asia, and Bali or Danang or whatever, or Kuala Lumpur. Go on Facebook group, go on the expats and such area, connect with them, get the Meetup app. It's amazing. It gives you access. It tells you all the events, the networking, social events, business networking in those places. Another beautiful organization, Nations, but this is more for business. It's business networking. If, for example, LinkedIn were to host networking events, this is what Nations are about. You know, professionals to network. So join those communities. So by the time you come, you already have a place. You already can easily build a network, a new circle of friends, because that's important. You don't want to be just alone all day in your apartment working, because that's not what relocating is about. It's about meeting new people. And the beautiful thing is, once you go to these places around the world, you will meet so many interesting people. It's going to be so much fun, not only exploring the new surroundings, exploring the new country, the culture, the tasting the new foods and all that, but also meeting people from all over the world. This is for me one of the greatest, joys of traveling, meeting those incredible people. So to recap, do research on YouTube, Facebook group, get in touch with those people, and just take a test drive, go for a vacation. Try it first before you relocate.
Lovely. I also took notes, you saying Meetup as well. And I might add here couch surfing, which is a very old idea. And I did travel with couch surfing for about 10, 15 years. Wonderful connections. People are, keeping together a space where money is not exchanged. It's about giving someone space in your own home, which I'm planning to do again when we purchased this house at the Austrian border, because I was more of a guest for a few decades, and because of the kids, it's maybe not ideal with kids, so it's probably for one or two travelers. People just take you into their homes and you will be able to experience a local rather than, 5-star spas or, hotel experiences. I believe are very different. So
Mhm.
I would always go to the markets, and I
Okay.
always travel, as you said. I think payment is if you are able to keep a low profile, because I always travel like the locals, and I'm I'm actually just setting myself up for my worst clothes to carry and wear in India, because I don't want to stand out. I want to fit right in. And luckily, I have a few pieces of clothes from my previous experiences, and a few worn t-shirts, because I will want to talk to, and I want to look like that kind of guy who is able to connect with these people. And I can't wear, expensive clothes or watches, which will maybe get me even more trouble, which has really not happened before, because
Mhm.
the real experiences, I believe, are in the everyday moments where you get
Absolutely.
to, you know, priests and gurus and ashrams and people you come across with. Obviously, there will be a few tricks and scams. It's always the case in some places. But do you want to share some of that too? What's your experience?
Experience about fitting in and going. My style of travel, just like you, I don't go to resorts. I don't do resorts, the all inclusive, because I don't see the point of traveling around the world and being surrounded by the same fat people you see back home. Fat people with, I'm saying this in an endearing way. This is an expression, not being, mean to those people. It's just that if I travel around the world 24 hours, I want to see where the local lives. I want to be where I really rarely go to the touristic places more than just taking the mandatory pictures and saying I've been there. After that, I just want to go deep, go where the locals go, interact with the locals, eat what the locals eat, stay and all that. Because this for me is what travel is about. See how people in other parts of the world from different cultures, countries, whatever, how they live. So for me, it's all about fitting in. And yes, you're absolutely right. At certain place in the world, you definitely do not want to showcase that hey, you have means, because hey, unfortunately, that's the reality of things. The world is not fair. There's a lot of disparity, especially in India or in South America and Brazil, between the haves and the haves not. So if you go around with a nice watch and the latest iPhone, that's a year's salary for these people. It's very tempting, and you can't really blame those, because hey, listen, there's a saying in Colombia, dar papaya, meaning giving papaya. If you make it too obvious, hey, you can't blame them really. The one to be blamed is you for being reckless in this case, because you have to understand their social environment, the social and all that, the economic status. Yes, it's not fair, but hey, life is not fair. So you have to, life is a game, learn the rules and play by the rules, especially when it comes to traveling. Whenever you're going to a new country, search to see what is the proper way, the proper etiquettes, where to go and especially where not to go, what to wear and what not to wear. I've seen so many, and this is very infuriating. Western women here in Malaysia that dress completely inappropriately. This is a Muslim country. Last year I was walking here in down, sure, KL is an international city and all that. I saw maybe girl in her 20s. It was a hot day, but she was walking around with just a bra. That is not acceptable anywhere in a civilized world, as far as I'm concerned, especially in a Muslim country. Ladies, please do some research and dress respectfully, you know?
Hmm. And maybe trust your instincts. I think
Yes.
that's again a very deep one where you have, in my terms, I use it, awareness, observe what's going on around you. And sometimes there are dodgy characters in places where you want to leave your luggage or leave a rented car. And I'll be honest with you, like we spent 2 weeks in Italy. Probably there had been 2 places where I said to my wife, I want you to go. I looked at the reviews that these places have been breaking into motorhomes and caravans pretty much constantly. So they all had these warning messages: don't leave it here, don't leave it in the daytime, don't leave it to us. So I said to her, for me, it's not worth it to then chase, trying to find a window which is broken into, and it was rainy too. So we sometimes decided to move on or not stop because our senses were telling us, well, it may not be the right place. And at times, again, especially I think it was Lucca. It's a beautiful town in Tuscany. I think 6 days ago we were there, and we had this dilemma again. Like we stopped, we had the caravan behind us, and I'm like, oh, where am I going to go? And I walk towards the other side of the car park. There is this fella, well, probably Asian or Pakistani. It doesn't matter where he was from, but he said, well, oh, it's safe, just come here. And I asked him, have you got work? No, I haven't got work. He says he lives in the van. Well, I wasn't sure whether it's the right thing for me to park up just beside him. And I kept walking and I found this massive circus. And behind these circuses, there is a whole village.
Yeah.
And in the artists, the whole crew of the circus. And I realized, some of these caravans and cars, some of them were Hungarians. And then while I'm thinking whether we should stay here or not, I walk up to this chap and he says, well, how are you? And he says he was from France. I think he's from Switzerland. And he says, well, they stay here for another 10 days and then they will be off. And it took me literally 10-15 minutes to quickly, rapidly create connection with him. And he says, well, if you're thinking about parking, like you could park right across my caravan on the other side of the fence, and I'm gonna cook here for my wife who is on the show at 5 p.m. And he says, you'll be fine. And of course I parked up exactly opposite to where he was, where other artists were having fun and doing stuff. So there is always an opportunity to connect and create real connections where you will feel safe. Obviously, you could still be tricked, but you will feel what's real and what's a trick.
Absolutely. It's all about being aware of your surroundings and respecting the local, culture, local manners, ethics, and all that, being respectful. And don't be afraid to smile and just say, hi, how are you? Because that can open literally a new world to you, open a new friendships, and sometimes even more. So that's one thing that I realized here. Some of the best friends I met overseas on my travel was just as a result of either me or they just saying, smile and say, hi, how are you? Where are you from? Simple as that.
Yeah, start conversations. And it got to the stage where he said, well, we said we want to go and travel to Cinque Terre, but again, it's a rocky area, very hilly and mountainous, and we know caravan is really not a good fit. And he said, well, if you want, you could tow your caravan into the village within the circus if you want to stay, leave it here for a few days, and then you drive out and you can come back. So imagine this, like they would have opened up the barrier for me to put my caravan into the circus ground. And this in 15-20 minutes. So people are actually beautiful and they are nice, and probably they want to help you, except those who are hanging out to do some harm. But then I would say really read the non-verbal cues of the communication, because they give away their false intentions sometimes.
Don't be too quick to trust Trust your gut feeling, your instincts, because that is when you, and that voice, because that is your soul talking to you, and your soul has two main purposes: guide you, protect you, keep you safe and alive, and guide you to the next phase of your journey. So when you talk to someone new, for example, let's say you just met them, just like you, that person telling you, oh, you can park your car here, your caravan, you listen to your gut feeling. You looked at the facial expression and to get to gauge them, to see whether that person can be trusted or not. Yes, most people, I would say the vast majority of people in the world, around the world, are good people with good intentions, but there's always the odd few that will try to befriend you, being fake, and waiting for an opportunity to see how they can get stuff from you, or they can literally steal from you. So always pay attention to your surroundings. Trust your gut feelings, your hunches. That's the biggest tip I can give to anyone.
And maybe carry your valuables, because mostly I didn't carry my 4 or 5 kilo laptop, but sometimes I decided to, yes, this is the place where I will carry that 4 or 5 kilos extra to walk around town, because I want to make sure I still have it at the end if something happens. So again, if you have a vehicle, you have stuff, then cover the things or put them in your boat. And I have to say, we are fairly lucky here in Europe still. I believe there is plenty of safety around, using devices or even jewelry, or unfortunately Europe has money, so it's hard to really stand out most of the time when you dress yourself really flash, unless you really go into bad parts of town. Do you want to share with us other countries where you lived in, or funny stories or experiences that left you baffled?
Well, I lived in Brazil. I lived in Thailand and the Philippines and Hong Kong and China, Malaysia, Vietnam, among other places. Funny things. I guess, again, I don't know if that can be funny, but when we first moved from France to Canada, at the time I barely spoke any English. And the French we speak in France is very different than the French we speak in Montreal and Quebec. So imagine me as a 14-year-old kid, teenager in school with a teacher talking, and I could barely understand what I was saying. I say, sir, can you please repeat? The first time I repeat, the second time again. Third time he gets annoyed. He says, hey, do you speak French? I said in French, Monsieur, je parle français, je parle pas québécois. I speak French, not Québécois. He didn't like it because, again, hey, and I had no mean intentions, because, hey, I could understand they speak. I don't know if you've ever listened to a Québécois. They speak like as if they had like a broken jaw, like, hey, like this, and they mispronounce the words, and they have different words. It's like listening to a drunk Scottish person or a drunk Welsh. That's the closest you can get to listening to a Quebecois. Mind you, I love my Quebecois friends now that I've been in Canada for over 25 years, almost 30 years. Wow. Now I understand them pretty well. But back then, as a 14-year-old boy, I didn't. And on top of that, the words we use were completely different. And that I had some funny, and if not even some hairy moments, because of misunderstanding, innocent misunderstanding, because the word we use in France is a completely different word meaning is in Quebec, and vice versa. Like, for example, in Quebecois, girlfriend is called blonde, my blonde. Okay. So imagine if your girlfriend is a brunette and you have a French girlfriend, say, how's your blonde? And the girl say, what? Paf. So that could be a heavy situation. It was back then, but other than that, there is funny, and all that all the time. And just be seriously, don't take yourself seriously, be open up minded, and you will have a blast. The world is so beautiful. Do not limit yourself to just your town, your region, or the country we're born. It's never been easier to travel as long as you can make money online. And you will find out that that's another topic we haven't even talked about, how you can drastically improve the quality of your life by going outside of your country, especially if you live in the Western Europe or North America, where the cost of living is becoming absurd. You come to a place like Malaysia, which is a first world country with third world prices. So, wow, what's going on? Even Vietnam. Like, for example, KL is a very advanced metropolis. You've been there, you've seen it. Very safe, people speak English, very civilized, extremely friendly people. But yet it's only a third of the cost of living of, say, Toronto or Paris or London or Milan, or maybe a quarter. But then when you come here and then you go to Danang, Danang is a third of the cost of living of KL.
Wow.
So I can talk about that a lot because we can do that maybe in a different episode. Because again, it's not just about saving a buck or two. Yes, that helps, but it's most importantly about drastically elevating the quality of your lifestyle and also removing stress from your life. For example, in Toronto, you need to generate at least $10,000 before tax. Half of it you don't even see it, goes to tax. A studio is $3,000. So let's say you make 10,000, half of it you don't see it. You're left with 4.5. You pay 3,000 for rent for a studio. Then you have $1,000 left for all the rest. How do you make ends meet? It's a challenge. It's very challenging. We come in a place like KL where you can live your best life on $2,000. Like the picture behind you, that's the swimming pool of the building. I'm actually right now at this building. I'm on the 23rd floor, and this swimming pool is on the 35th floor. When I was living here full time last year for 6 months, I was staying this is a luxurious condo, brand spanking new in the heart of KL, 10-minute walk from the Petrona Towers, fully furnished, utilities included, twice a week, maid service included for $850 a month. That's on Airbnb. And if you go in the lobby to the office and you negotiate and you sign a 6 months, a 12-month contract, you can literally slash it by half, $500.
Wow.
And seriously, when I go to a place, I don't even look at prices. You live like a millionaire on a beer budget on $2,000. We're in Toronto. The same lifestyle would cost you $10,000, $15,000. I went back home last year for 2 months and I was staying with family. Share was still helping a little bit, but I was still spending $4,000 a month without $4,000 a month without leaving the house. Forget about eating out, socializing, or anything. Whereas in KL, I'm living my best life on 2,000. And in Vietnam, I cannot. I am struggling to spend over 1,000 Canadian. 1,000 Canadian is 750 US. I have to go each night and make it rain like this, buy drinks for everyone in the bar or whatever, or pay the bill for everybody in the restaurant or the coffee shop to go over $1,000. My rent in Vietnam, I stay in a very nice, spacious condo studio with floor to ceiling windows, fully furnished, utilities included, twice a week maid service for literally $300 a month.
Unbelievable.
And the ATMs in Vietnam have a limit of 3 million dong per withdrawal. 3 million dong might sound a lot, but it's actually 121 US dollars, about 100 euros. That's enough for me. That covers all my food, my coffee. Sometime when I go have a light drink for 7 to 10 days. That's it. So if you add all of that, $400 for food per week, per month, plus 300 for my rent, that's 700. I cannot spend over 1,000. I have a beautiful beach, 10-minute walk. It's beautiful, amazing people, friendly. The big selection of Western food. The point is, when you live in an environment like that, sure, you save a lot of money, but also you remove stress because you don't have the stress of generating 10,000 just to have a place over your head. And when you don't have any stress anymore, you can become very productive. You can take care of yourself. You can take care of your health, start working out, yoga, whatever you want to do, swimming, running, cardio, whatever. And also, you can really be selective and work on projects that you're really passionate about, not on any project just because you're desperate or you need the money to pay your rent. So this is why traveling, living abroad, using the term of that Tim Ferriss made very popular in his 4-Hour Work Week, which is considered the Bible for all of us location independent business owners, is geographical arbitrage. You make money in a hard currency like pound, US dollars, euros, or yen. and you live in a place where cost of living is when the currency is lower. Like, for example, you make money in, say, euros or dollars. You live in Asia, you live in South America, and to some extent even in Eastern Europe or south of Europe. You drastically elevate the quality of your life. So more and more people are doing that, especially with all the nonsense going on in the US and Canada, the taxes, the bad weather, the crazy cost of living. That's a no-brainer. Why would you spend even if you make the money, you have the money, why would you spend $10,000 in a place where it's 6 months of the year frozen? You're paying $5,000 just for your mortgage. You're paying $30 just for a basic meal. You pay $20 just for McDonald's. Why? We can live like in a beautiful tropical place with such a beautiful swimming pool and wonderful beach, eat healthy food all the time, meet incredibly inspiring, empowering, and uplifting people around you who are doing the same thing. That to me is a no-brainer. So when I talk with some family and relative who are still too brainwashed into the system, into the matrix, they tell me, so when are you coming back home? When are you settling? I say, why would I come back home? Just give me one reason. Just give me one
Never.
reason. So what do you mean? What do you mean? Said, well, do some research on YouTube. Go educate yourself first, and then we can have a proper conversation. Or go travel.
Well, so valid what you're sharing, and I understand there is a compromise for a lot of people because they wouldn't have their usual friends and communities around them. But as you said, I think there comes a point when you need to define your own agenda, your own balance, your own lifestyle, and look at the world map, and you can actually choose. And probably these guys that you talk about who has $5,000 or $10,000, I quickly did the math. So if he disappeared from the US to Canada, that is $700 per month. That $500 lasts for 7 months to live like living on a holiday like a king. And that would give them so much recharge, so much creativity. Probably by the time they would be back in the US, they could reshift, or let's say elevate their lives with what they have been experiencing and what they've learned. So I believe no one is out to look after you.
No.
It's got to be, if you're listening to us, it's got to be you. You've got to do the research. You've got to look after yourself, because your boss will not care about you.
Absolutely.
They will care about you doing your 10, 12, 8 hours, whatever it is. And if you're on someone else's goal plan, you will build someone else's life, not your one.
Yeah, and when people ask me, where are you coming back to Canada? I said, why? Okay. Why would I pay $3,000 just for a studio, unfurnished, nothing, and spend $6,000 a month, just barely being able to survive, freezing my bones, if not nothing else? Why? As opposed to living in a tropical place, meeting cool, inspiring people, eating amazing food, exploring new places, traveling. Like, you've been in Asia, you can, for the price of what you pay just for a pizza and a beer, you can be on a plane to the beaches of Thailand or Bali. When I tell people that, hey, it cost me $100 return for my ticket from Danang, Vietnam to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, they can't believe it. Because in Canada, to fly even from Toronto to Montreal, which is 1 hour flight, 500 kilometers, it would be cheaper for me to fly from Toronto to Paris or London than to fly to Montreal next door. Or if you want to drive, good luck. You will pay at least $300 just in gas.
That's a deep one. Probably another topic to discover or to talk about, because people are being sold expensive stuff. Well,
False.
These flights from me from Budapest, Central Europe, through Abu Dhabi, I don't even know how many hours, because I don't care about the time. But I love flying. I have no issues with one stop. I get to southern India, and then 2 weeks later, I got another flight to KL, and then to Australia. Now, I can throw a question like, how much do you think, this is one way, how much do you think it cost me?
Are you using your points from your credit cards or no?
No. It was real purchase over the internet. It was real purchase. No, nothing like, special discounts or club card, nothing like that.
So Budapest, Abu Dhabi, Abu Dhabi, Chennai, Chennai, KL, KL, which city in Australia? Perth,
Sydney.
Sydney. I would say $600 or
Well,
less
you
than a thousand,
almost
less than 1,000.
you almost got it, but I'll be honest, it's 670 Australian.
So that's like what, 400 US dollars?
I think it's 450.
What can you get in Toronto and Paris, London for $450? Not even a weekend of a nice meal or just going party with friends.
Tough. And people don't know these opportunities are out there, because once you walk down to the usual travel agents, well, they rip you off, because you need to, again, do your own research. I'll do the math here. So 670 AUD in
Wow.
US.
Send me the link, the website you booked at, because I want to know. That's a very good deal, man. If I can get something similar on the way back from Asia to Canada on the with a stopover somewhere in Europe,
Yeah, I found it on momondo.com.
On
You
which
can
one?
download MOMONDO. And what you want to do, you kind of do regular search, and then you find magic happen. Like once I was able to fly from Sydney to Budapest through China for
Wait, what's the name again? Momo what?
Momondo, MOMONDO.
Okay, Mondo. Okay.
You
Okay.
can download the app, and then you can, you put in notifications, watching prices. But I had amazing, unbelievable deals. Sometimes they won't be available for too long, because I believe sometimes like travel agents, they just throw out 20 tickets or 50 or 100, and they fill up the planes, and then sometimes going closer to your date of departure, sometimes it gets more expensive, but sometimes it gets so much cheaper, because now they're trying to sell the last ticket. So do your research, because there is amazing deals out there, and if you are taking
And
things on
also,
faith.
play the credit card points game. Get a credit card that gives you, for me, when I get a new credit card, I look one thing. I don't care about cash rebate or gas thing like that. I look at how much mile I get per dollar spent, and does that give me access to lounges around the world? That for me is the most important thing. I don't care about your 10 cents discount on gas, because I don't drive, especially when I'm around the world. But I want access to those lounges to make my waiting in the airport much more enjoyable. I want those points each time. At times I exclusively use just my credit card, and of course I pay it off right away, just to get those points. Especially if
Yes.
you're on a business. If you're on a business where you're ordering a lot of stuff running ads, get a credit card that gives you points. Hey, you can be flying a lot more, and for peanuts, for free, even just free upgrades.
That's a wonderful share as well. I haven't been using them much, but I understand some people absolutely have been crushing travel deals
Oh
and
yeah.
getting, sometimes even paying tickets or by those points. I haven't been probably a regular enough traveler, or sometimes when I travel, airlines don't help me, because I'm tend to traveling on ground or drive around 10,000 kilometers in Australia in some places. So absolutely go for it. I found that there is at times the 360-day availability for some of these points, and that was not something that I could capitalize or use. But that was my experience, and that was probably 10 years ago. So it might be even out of date.
Yes. Another thing as well is that on top of the credit card games, register for those airline alliances, like for example, Star Alliance or Sky. What is it? Another one. I use a lot Star Alliance. because it's part of networks of airlines around the world that if you fly with any of them, you get points, and the more points you get, the more benefits you get. You get up to, for example, redeem literally free tickets. I've flown a lot, quite a few free tickets as a result of that. So get those reward points, not only on your credit card, but also on, there's one that is One World, another one that is Star Alliance. Look them up, register for them. Each time you book a ticket, pretty much guaranteed, as long as it's with a major airline, it belongs to one of those alliances. And just get rack up points, even if it's a short flight. Hey, they add up. Before you know it, if you fly frequently, you should be able to get at least one highly discounted, if not free ticket per year, or free upgrade
Well,
from economy to first, to business, even to first class.
yes, I mean, well, amazing conversation.
Thank you.
I loved your share and how you've been able to get more for your bucks, because I think, you know, there are two ways to increase your standard of living, or unfortunately, you need to normally pay with money for your time. So you might as well just drop your expenses and, of course, increase your income. So however you do it, the result is the same. You probably have to work less. You will have to find, or you could have more fun, joy, peace, connection to your chosen lifestyle, which is, I believe, a life on your terms. And the world is full of opportunities. And obviously we have Payman here. He can help you to get your message out there and convert that into conversations, hard dollars, and to make that you know, sales. And I'm helping on having the resilient mind to actually believe that you can earn that much, or you deserve to have the lifestyle that you see sometimes happening out there in the world. Well, it could be yours, but we need then an adjustment to that mind. Go ahead.
Just ask yourself not why it cannot work. Instead, ask yourself, what if it works? Why not me? Why not now? If he or she is able to it, why not me? I'm not stupid here. I'm not smarter than me. Sure, they might get longer than me, but still, I can do it. I can do it. Just go. Again, if you've been wandering around, going around the world and traveling, especially if you're making money online, go for a test drive. Go for a month. See how it is. And let me tell you, once you get a taste of it, there's no going back. Because why would you go back to a place where you're spending 3 times more money for 3 times less fun? Unless you don't like money, or you like being taken advantage of, that's a different story. But if you care about yourself, want to see your money go further and get the most for your bang, more bang for your buck, then there's no turning back. Why would you spend $3,000 on a studio where you can get in a beautiful place like behind me for $850, or in Danang for $300, literally? And I'm overpaying because I'm paying the gringo price, the tourist price. If I were to
Yeah.
I saw an amazing building at Vietnam in Danang, 10-minute walk from the beach, massive penthouse, and a brand spanking new condo, French style architecture, penthouse, massive living room, big island with a kitchen, everything brand new, massive couch, big beautiful bedroom, and a massive terrace for $500 a month. That was before Christmas. I already had a place. I wanted it for early January. So, it was not available at the time. I wanted right now. I said it would be available by mid-January. I said it's too late for me. Otherwise, I would have taken it.
Well,
Once you get a taste of that, there's no freaking way going back. You become completely corrupted, but corrupted in the right way.
yes. I think we need to stop this interview because you're making me envious by, 3 months after we decided to live in, Central Europe. It's more about the kids. I wouldn't choose this one, but I think we have planted enough seeds for people to rethink, revise what and how they do in their lives. thank you very much, Payman,
Welcome.
and catch up again on the next conversation.
For sure. One
Very-
last thing I want to say: if you have children, don't let that be something to stop you from traveling. Actually, traveling and giving your kids a taste of living abroad is the single greatest gift you can give them. The single greatest gift, because what's more fun? Learning about, for example, a silly example about ancient Egypt or Greece or ancient Rome or even ancient Asia through some boring class, or through actually going to the streets of Athens, going to the streets of wherever, Brazil, Peru or Asia. They will learn a new language. They will learn, and they will be much more open-minded, see about what the world is, and they will become so much more resourceful, so much more employable if they want to go that downward. But if not, hey, they will have so many more ideas to start their own business that they will never need a job. So don't let that, and that goes to you as well, brother. Before you buy that house, take your kids and family for 3 months to KL. Maybe you will find your happiness there. There's some amazing international schools there. You've been to KL, you know how amazing it is. I don't need to, and I don't work for the Malaysian Board of Tourism, so maybe hold on, you never know.
No, I hear you. We had another preference. It was grandma aunt, and absolutely, I do believe it's a very valid point. And you've also promoted one of our next conversations, which will be more about kids,
Oh yes,
more about homeschooling, and more about traveling specifically for educational reasons. Thanks very much. It was wonderful to have you here, and see you soon again.
pleasure all mine, brother. Keep shining your light, keep blessing the world, your presence, your impact, and your gifts. And have safe travels to India and around the world. And I'm looking forward to our next conversation. And ultimately, who knows, to meeting in person in KL or Budapest or wherever in the near future. Take care, brother.
Thanks.
So take care. Bye-bye.